My boyfriend tried to move into my house without asking, saying, "We're a couple, what's yours is mine." When I told him no, he secretly started moving his stuff in anyway and smirked, "Now you can't kick me out." His smile vanished when I handed him an eviction notice and whispered, "Then you'll love reading the legal definition of trespassing. I, 32 female, own my house. It's nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom townhouse in Chicago, but it's mine. I worked hard for it. Paid off the mortgage last year. Everything inside, every chair, every rug, every tiny thing is something I picked out myself." A year ago, I met Nathan, 35. We hit it off fast. He was funny, charming, and always had these big ideas about the future. At first, I thought he was ambitious. Now, I know he was just delusional. He rented a small apartment across town. It wasn't bad, but it was one of those places where the kitchen and living room are basically the same space, and the bedroom barely fits a bed. He complained about it a lot. The rent, the neighbors, the size. He loved staying at my place. I didn't mind at first. It was normal couple stuff. He left a hoodie here, a toothbrush there. But then it escalated. The red flags start. One day, I noticed a full drawer in my dresser filled with his clothes. Not just 1 or 2 items, a whole drawer. I asked him about it and he laughed. "Babe, I'm here all the time. It just makes sense." It didn't sit right with me, but I let it go. A few weeks later, I went to put some towels away and realized that half a shelf in my linen closet was stacked with his stuff, his soap, his razors, his hair products. I didn't even know he used half that stuff. Then I noticed his gaming console was set up in my living room. I asked, "Did you bring your Xbox here?" "Oh, yeah," he said casually. "Figured I'd keep it here since I never play at my place anymore." This time, I wasn't quiet about it. "I don't remember saying you could move your stuff in," I told him. Again, he laughed it off. "Come on, what's yours is mine, right?" No. Still, I tried to be patient. I set boundaries. I told him, straight up, that I wasn't ready to live together. I liked having my space. He acted like he understood. He did not understand. The moment I knew he was insane. One evening, I came home from work and saw something that made my stomach drop. There was a moving truck in my driveway. Nathan was directing movers. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, watching in horror as men carried boxes into my house. My house. I got out and walked up to him, my voice calm but sharp. "Nathan, what the hell is happening?" He actually grinned. "Surprise. Figured it's easier this way. Now you can't kick me out." He said it like it was some kind of joke. Like this was a cute, romantic gesture. I didn't laugh. I looked around. The movers, 2 guys in matching blue shirts, looked awkward. One of them was literally holding a box labeled Nathan's Kitchen. I turned back to Nathan. "I told you I wasn't ready to live together." He shrugged. "Babe, we're already basically living together. This just makes it official." I was so stunned I couldn't even speak. He wasn't asking. He wasn't suggesting. He was telling me that he had decided, on his own, that we were now living together. I wasn't having it. I walked into my house, stepped over a box labeled Nathan's Books, and went straight to the bedroom. My closet door was open. His clothes were already hanging next to mine. That was it. That was my breaking point. I walked back out. The movers were still coming in. Nathan was standing in the kitchen, looking so pleased with himself. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Put everything back on the truck." His smile faded. "Wait, what?" "Put everything back." He laughed, but it was forced. "You're being dramatic." I didn't say anything. I just grabbed one of his boxes, walked outside, and dropped it on the porch. "Nathan," I said, my voice deadly calm. "I did not agree to this. I told you I wasn't ready. You ignored me and did this behind my back. That's not how this works." He crossed his arms. "Babe, you don't understand. If my stuff is here, you legally can't kick me out." I blinked. Oh, this idiot thought he was being smart. Nathan knew a little bit about tenant rights. He thought that by moving his stuff in, without my permission, he could legally squat in my house. He had no idea who he was messing with. He forgot one tiny detail. I work in real estate law, and I know exactly how to handle squatters. I turned and walked to my office. Nathan followed, still acting smug. "Babe," he said, "there's no need to be this extreme. We'll be great together. I'll help with bills and everything." I ignored him. I sat at my desk, pulled up my laptop, and started typing. Nathan stood in the doorway. "What are you doing?" I didn't answer. I kept typing. A minute later, I printed out a legal eviction notice. I walked over and handed it to him. Nathan stared at the paper. His face went pale. What is this?" I smiled. "It's an eviction notice." He swallowed. "You can't be serious." Oh, I'm dead serious. He read it again. But I just moved in. No, you did not. You tried to force your way in. This is my house. You are not on the lease. You have zero legal claim. And now you have 30 days to remove any items you've left here, or I will file for trespassing. He looked up at me, the cocky attitude finally crumbling. You're really doing this? I leaned in and whispered, you should really read up on Illinois trespassing laws. Nathan stood there, gripping the eviction notice like it was written in another language. His mouth opened and closed a few times, but no words came out. Then, just like that, the rage kicked in. This is insane, he snapped. I'm your boyfriend. You're acting like I'm some random stranger breaking into your house. No, I'm acting like someone whose boundaries were ignored, I said. You don't live here, Nathan. You never asked. You just decided. That's not how this works. His hands curled into fists. He let out a bitter laugh. You think you're so smart, huh? Think you can just throw me out like a trespasser? I finished for him. Yes. The movers, who had been awkwardly standing there the whole time, took that as their cue. One of them, a guy with a beard, cleared his throat. So, are we bringing the boxes back out? Nathan shot them a glare. No one is going anywhere. The bearded guy scratched the back of his head. Yeah, man, that's not how this works. We were paid to move the stuff, not settle legal disputes. The other mover, a younger guy with tattoos, sighed and picked up a box. Dude, let's just go. I don't get paid enough for this. Nathan grabbed the box out of his hands. Put it down, he growled. Oh, so he was going full psycho mode. I folded my arms. Nathan, let them do their job. If you don't take your things now, you're going to have to arrange a legal pickup later. Your choice. He ignored me. His face was red, his chest rising and falling fast. I could see it in his eyes. He was scrambling for control, trying to figure out how to twist this in his favor. Then, his face shifted. The anger melted away and a fake, wounded expression took its place. Baby, he said softly, stepping closer. Come on. Don't do this. I love you. I stared at him. He kept going, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. I was just trying to make things easier for us. I thought we were building a future. I'm sorry if I overstepped. Let's just talk about this. The absolute audacity. I took a slow breath. Nathan, did you or did you not hire movers behind my back, pack up your apartment, and move into my house without my consent? His eye twitched. Did you, I continued, stand here and smugly tell me I couldn't kick you out because your stuff was inside? His mouth pressed into a thin line. I crossed my arms. Then no, we are not talking about this. Things take a turn. Nathan knew he was losing. He grabbed his phone and stormed outside. I assumed he was calling a friend to vent or maybe trying to find another place to stay. But then, my doorbell rang. I frowned and went to check. When I opened the door, I froze. 2 cops were standing on my porch. Nathan stood behind them, arms crossed, looking smug again. Oh, this sneaky little bastard. One of the officers, an older guy with tired eyes, gave me a polite nod. Ma'am, we got a call about a domestic dispute? Nathan faked a sad sigh. I just don't know why she's acting this way. I thought we were moving in together, but when I showed up, she freaked out and started throwing my things outside. I saw exactly what he was doing. He wanted to flip the script. He wanted to make it look like I was the unhinged one, like I was some unstable woman tossing her poor, innocent boyfriend onto the street. I didn't even flinch. I turned to the officer and said, Officers, Nathan does not live here. He is not on my lease. He was never invited to move in. He hired movers behind my back and started moving his belongings into my house without my consent. Nathan cut in before I could finish. She's lying. We've been together for a year. I stay here all the time. She just changed her mind at the last second, and the cop held up a hand. Sir, let her speak. Nathan shut his mouth, but his nostrils flared. I continued. I have an official eviction notice for him, which I gave to him less than 10 minutes ago. If he refuses to leave, I will be filing for trespassing. The officers exchanged a look. Then the younger one, a woman with blonde hair tied in a ponytail, turned to Nathan. Sir, do you have any proof that you live here? Nathan hesitated. Well, she asked. I get mail here, he blurted out. I had a couple of packages delivered. I smirked. You mean the Amazon orders you specifically had sent here last month? Because I have security footage of you changing the shipping address while sitting in my living room. Nathan turned bright red. The male officer sighed. Look, son, you don't have a lease. You don't have legal tenancy. She asked you to leave and you refused. If you don't take your stuff and go, this becomes a civil matter and you'll have to fight it in court. Nathan's mouth fell open. The younger cop raised an eyebrow. Or she could just file a trespassing complaint right now. Silence. The officers waited. Nathan's jaw clenched. Then, finally, he let out a sharp breath through his nose. Fine, he spat. I stepped aside and motioned to the movers. Go ahead. They immediately started grabbing boxes. Nathan glared at me the entire time. His eyes were dark, burning with resentment. I knew that look. He wasn't done. And I was right. Because 3 days later, he came back. And this time, he brought a lawyer. 3 days after the cops made Nathan take his stuff and leave, I thought it was over. I should have known better. This man did not know how to take a no. On a cold Wednesday morning, just as I was finishing my coffee, my doorbell rang. I checked the security camera and froze. Nathan was standing on my porch, but he wasn't alone. Beside him stood a lawyer. A tall, sharp-dressed man in a too-expensive suit. Briefcase in one hand, paper in the other. I could feel the rage building before I even opened the door. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and finally answered. What the hell do you want? Nathan smirked. You'll want to read this. The lawyer, who looked bored out of his mind, cleared his throat and handed me a legal document. I skimmed it. Then I had to read it again. Nathan was suing me for illegal eviction. Nathan's insane legal move. I took a step back, staring at the paper like it might burst into flames. This is a joke, I said. This has to be a joke. Nathan's smirk widened. Nope. You threw me out without proper notice. I have rights. The sheer audacity of this man. I laughed. Right in his face. You have nothing. You don't live here. Nathan's lawyer finally spoke, sounding like he'd rather be anywhere else. Ms., my last name, my client asserts that he established residency in your home. Given that, you were required to give him at least 30 days notice before removal. I smiled. A slow, dangerous smile. I turned around, grabbed a folder from my office and walked back to the porch. I held it up and flipped through the pages. Here's my title deed. My mortgage statement. And, oh look, an email from my security system confirming that Nathan's apartment lease was still active on the day he tried to move in. Nathan's smirk faltered. I wasn't done. I turned to his lawyer. Did he tell you he showed up with a moving truck and forced his way in without permission? The lawyer's eyebrows twitched. Did he tell you, I continued, that I served him an eviction notice immediately and have police records proving he was removed as a trespasser? I stepped forward, lowering my voice. Did he also tell you he called the cops on me that day, lied to their faces, and still got kicked out? Nathan's lawyer's face visibly changed. He turned to Nathan, his voice flat. Is that true? Nathan stammered. Well, she didn't. The lawyer sighed deeply and turned back to me. My apologies for wasting your time, Ms. Last name. Consider this withdrawn. He pulled the document from my hands, ripped it in half, and walked away without another word. Nathan was livid. His face was red, his hands were fists, and for a second, I actually thought he might throw a tantrum right there on my porch. Instead, he spat at the ground and hissed, "You're gonna regret this." Then he stormed off after his lawyer. I exhaled. That was that, right? He'd finally give up? No, because Nathan wasn't just an idiot. He was a vindictive idiot. And a week later, he escalated again. Nathan goes nuclear. It started small. Weird things happened around my house. The first time, I thought I was imagining it. I'd come home, and my mailbox was open. Nothing stolen, just hanging open. Then, a few days later, I noticed my garage door opener was missing from my car. I kept it clipped to the visor, but one day, it was gone. I turned my whole car upside down. Nowhere. I had a bad feeling. So, I checked my security cameras. And there he was. Nathan. Standing in my driveway at 3 a.m. His car lights were off. He walked up to my mailbox, opened it, looked inside, then walked over to my car and reached in through the window. The clip on my visor? Empty. A sick feeling spread through my chest. Nathan had my garage opener. And I knew, deep in my gut, that he was planning something. I called a locksmith that morning. Changed my locks. Deactivated my garage opener. Upgraded my security system. I even put a camera inside the garage. And thank God I did. Because 3 nights later, Nathan came back. And this time, he broke in. Caught red-handed. I woke up to my security alarm blaring. Adrenaline shot through me. My phone buzzed, motion detected, garage. I checked the camera. And there he was. Nathan. Inside my garage. Trying to pry open the door to my house. My stomach dropped. He was really doing this. I didn't hesitate. I called 911 immediately. I told them everything: my ex, the trespassing, the eviction, the missing garage opener, the break-in attempt. The dispatcher took it seriously. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars rolled up with their lights flashing. Nathan tried to run, but they caught his dumbass before he even made it to his car. I stood in my living room, watching it all through my camera. The cops pinned him against the hood of his car. One of them found a backpack slung over his shoulder. And when they opened it, they found zip ties, a pocket knife, gloves. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just some petty revenge stunt. Nathan had a plan. And I had no idea how bad it could have gotten if my alarm hadn't gone off. The cop looked at the contents of the bag, then at Nathan. "You want to tell me what you were planning to do?" Nathan said nothing. They hauled him into the back of the squad car. One of the officers came to my door. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges?" I looked past him, at Nathan, furious, humiliated, trapped in the back seat of a police car. I had never wanted anything more. And this time, I was making sure he never came back. Nathan sat in the back of the police car, his face a twisted mix of rage and humiliation. His hands were cuffed, his whole body tense like a coil ready to snap. But he wasn't yelling. He wasn't struggling. He was thinking. That's what scared me the most. The officer turned back to me. "He's going in for breaking and entering, plus attempted burglary since he had tools to force entry. If you want to press additional charges, now's the time." I didn't even hesitate. "Yes!" Nathan's head snapped up. "Wait, what?" No, babe, don't." I shut the door in his face. The last move. I thought that was the end. I really did. Nathan was arrested. I filed for a restraining order the next morning. My security was upgraded. I even had new locks, new codes, and floodlights installed. I wanted to erase him, but Nathan wasn't done yet. Because 3 days later, I got a summons to court. Nathan had bailed himself out. And now, he was suing me again. This time, for damages and wrongful imprisonment. I nearly lost my mind. How did someone have this much nerve? This much delusion? But I wasn't backing down. I hired my own lawyer. And when the day of the hearing came, Nathan walked in like he'd already won. We sat across from each other in the small courtroom. Nathan's lawyer, a different one this time, since his last guy probably quit out of shame, stood stiffly next to him. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, flipped through the documents. She looked unimpressed. "Nathan claims he was unlawfully removed from your home," she said to me. "Do you have evidence that he was never a tenant?" I stood up. "Yes, Your Honor. Here's my property deed, my security footage, and police reports from the night he attempted to break in." I placed the files on the judge's desk. She skimmed through them, nodding. Then she turned to Nathan. "Mr. Nathan's last name, do you have any legal proof that you were a resident of this woman's home?" Nathan grinned. "I got mail there." The judge blinked slowly. Nathan's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. The judge exhaled through her nose. "Let me be clear, changing your Amazon shipping address does not make you a tenant." Nathan's face twitched. "Do you have a lease agreement?" the judge pressed. Silence. "I signed document of any kind?" More silence. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Nathan's last name, are you aware that breaking into someone's home, where you are not legally registered as a tenant, is a crime?" Nathan's confidence visibly cracked. His lawyer sighed and ran a hand down his face. The judge shuffled the papers in front of her and set them down. "Ms. My last name, based on this evidence, your actions were lawful. This case is dismissed." I let out a slow breath. But the judge wasn't done. She turned to Nathan. "However, given the trespassing incident, you may want to prepare for your own legal consequences. I would suggest finding a criminal defense attorney." Nathan's face drained of color. His lawyer immediately turned to him, whispering something under his breath. Nathan stumbled over his words. "Why, Your Honor, I was just..." She raised a hand. "Enough. We're done here." And just like that, it was over. Nathan had lost. Again. Outside the courtroom, Nathan snapped. "This is your fault," he hissed, storming after me. I turned to face him. He looked wrecked. Dark circles under his eyes, a nervous twitch in his jaw. The arrogant smirk? Completely gone. "My fault?" I repeated. "You ruined me," he spat. "I lost my apartment. My credit is screwed because of all the money I spent moving. I lost my job because I had to take time off for this stupid case." I tilted my head. "And that's my problem, how?" Nathan's nostrils flared. "I loved you and you..." "No, you didn't." I said it so calmly, so finally, that it stunned him into silence. "You never loved me," I said. "You wanted control. You thought you could trap me in my own house and live off me." Nathan's hands curled into fists. His whole body was shaking. Then, in one last pathetic attempt, he reached for me. But before he could get close, a voice cut in. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Nathan and I both turned. Standing a few feet away was a police officer. One of the same officers from the night he broke in. Nathan froze. The cop crossed his arms. Your restraining order goes into effect today, buddy. He tilted his head. Which means you're violating it right now. Nathan's whole body stiffened. His breathing was ragged. He looked at me, then at the cop, then back at me. And then, finally, he broke. His shoulders sagged. His mouth trembled. And without another word, he turned and walked away. That was the last time I ever saw him. It took months to fully recover. For a while, I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting him to come back. But he never did. After our court case, Nathan's life fell apart. He lost his apartment. Got arrested again for skipping bail. No job. No friends. Last I heard, he was living with a distant cousin, bouncing from couch to couch. Me? I kept my house. I changed everything, new security, new routines, even new furniture. Anything to erase him from my space. I still think about it sometimes. Not about Nathan, specifically, but about how easy it was for him to try and take over my life. How he started with small things, a hoodie, a toothbrush, before he tried to steal my entire home. It made me realize how quickly control can slip away. I'm more careful now. More guarded. But I also know this. I am no one's backup plan. No one's free ride. And no one, ever again, will think they can take what's mine. Not without a fight.